It's time to dive beneath the surface and into the minds and hearts of your favorite celebrities and pop culture icons. Welcome to Up and Adam.
Hey guys, what's up? You're watching Up and Adam. My name's Adam Newell. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm the guy bringing you guys all the weekly interviews and recaps from your favorite celebrities and pop culture influencers. But for those of you who do know me, you know that that's not why we're always here, right? Guys, if you haven't already, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell because you don't want to miss anything we have coming up. And with that being said, let's jump right in with Kelly Mealy. All right, Kelly. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. You look beautiful as always. Even when I saw you for the first time on Bling Empire, I was just so fascinated, not by, of course, you're stunning. You're this beautiful woman, but you have so much going for you. And honestly, I think you're one of the breakout stars for sure, of Bling Empire. You're like at the top of the list. And I'm just excited to have you on today.
Thank you so much, Adam. You're already making me blush. So thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Of course. And I know that, there are some people who have been living under a rock, and I don't know how, especially after 2020 when we were going through a pandemic and we had nothing to do but be stuck at home. After Bling Empire came out, we got to see you and see a little bit about your life. We had the opportunity to get to know you a little bit. But for those of us living under a rock, can you just give us a little bit more about who you are and how you, I guess, came to be on Bling Empire?
Okay, yeah. So I'm an entrepreneur and producer. I produce mostly scripted television and movies. Bling Empire started by, I read the book Crazy Rich Asians, and I'm like, these are all fictional versions of my friends. And it's such an amazing world, and it's a world that's normally very hidden because, again, the Asian culture, we're very low key. We don't like to really talk, or we don't really like to flaunt that much, right? Or talk about our problems and issues. And it's been such a long journey putting this project together. And obviously, after partnering up with Jeff Jenkins, he's such an amazing just human being and veteran in this industry. He was able to take this project to another level. And then we sold it to Netflix. I mean, Netflix is it's a global network, and we're just very, very excited, and it's been very overwhelmed by the love and support by the fans since the show came out.
Wow. No, I mean, the show actually too, just for those of for anyone who's watching, you actually filmed the show. Am I wrong? Is it 2018 you filmed the show and then it came out? Why did it take so long to come out?
Yeah, we filmed, actually, Paris was filmed in end of 2018, but majority of the filming was done in 2019. We wrapped in 2019. We were gonna, originally we're gonna come out in middle of 2020, but also one of the things, the reason it took so long is that, again, with Netflix, they have to dub a lot of different languages and subtitle it because it is a global show. I think it premiered in 192 countries. Wow. So that, the post-production process, it is a little bit longer than your normal show. And then also at that time, I think, during 2020 was such a difficult time. And also our political climax, with COVID, I think that they just wanted to push a little bit so the show will have, the eyeball at the time that, and I'm really happy it came out in 2021.
I agree. Honestly, it's a great way to start off the year, right?
Yes, absolutely.
I do want to point out, you did say that you obviously you're a very successful entrepreneur, and on the show we get to see a little bit of your backstory about your previous relationship where you were with this guy who you didn't even know, from your words, who you were sleeping next to at night. You had this very lavish lifestyle, and then everything kind of turned on a dime. But then you turned your life around and you kind of came right back into it and became this successful entrepreneur. What pushed you into that direction?
I think I've always been born with it, same thing with my mom. My mom's my role model. She's such a fighter. She left a very comfortable life in China to immigrate to the US so I could have better education and have more opportunities. And, we had to, live in I think our first apartment was like $250 a month. So, we didn't really come from money, and she had to really work her way back up, and for her, I think it very motivated me. And I realized that, life is up and downs, and you have to keep fighting. There's only two choices: you give up or you keep fighting. So for me, I think because I've had that background of coming from nothing and worked my way up to, I was successful before I met my ex-husband, but of course his level of like wealth is a whole different level, and after when the whole thing happened, I had to start all over again, just because also at the time the money I was making individually was also tied into the lawsuit, just because we were married at the time. But like I said, you got to keep going, and there's only two choices. So for me, I want to keep fighting, and being a true entrepreneur, you can always come back up, and it's part of life, ups and downs.
I think it's really fascinating not only to hear your story, but the story of so many other people who do migrate here from different countries and come here in order to have a better life, especially because I've had conversations with so many of my friends and people that I know, colleagues, who have been born into this country and they don't really do anything. Like there's no drive. I really respect that and commend that. And I know that you don't need that validation from anybody, but honestly, it's very inspiring, just to throw that out there.
That's really, really nice. Thank you so much.
Of course. And I want to kind of segue into the fact that not only are you a successful entrepreneur and we get to see you on TV, which we love, and we're hoping for sure that we get more of this, but you also give back and you engage in different charity organizations. And one of them, I want to say, is it Hate is a Virus? Hate is a Virus organization?
Yeah, Hate is a Virus is a recent partnership I started. We committed to raise $1 million to go to local and national organizations for Asian hate crimes for different AAPI communities. And I personally matched the first $25,000 just to kickstart the campaign, and so then everybody who donated the first $25,000, they get double the impact. For me, I think giving back is so important, just because like what are we here for, in a sense, right? Like we can't, when we go or when we pass away, we can't take any money with us. It's just that hopefully we can leave this planet a little bit better than we found it, right? That's so for the next generation. So for me, giving back is a very huge part of my life, and I want to keep continuing doing more.
I love that. And then for those of us who didn't know, you're also a huge advocate for mental health. I'm sure there are so many reasons as to why you would be an advocate for that. And if it's okay, I'm not trying to dive into something that you don't want to share at all, but can you just give us a little bit of the backstory on that and why it is so important to you?
Yeah, absolutely. And then conversations like this is what we need to be having, because the first step is awareness. So thank you for asking that, Ash. I'm really happy you asked it. Mental health awareness or mental health is not something that I grew up knowing. In the Asian culture, it's very, in a sense, like you don't talk about mental health because like, oh my God, something's wrong with you. But the thing is that mental health is like, it doesn't mean that something's wrong with you. You're just part of self-love, part of checking in with yourself and knowing yourself, right? So for me, because, Drew and I went to a lot of couple therapy on the show, I started really kind of digging into therapy individually for myself as well, because, you're kind of set in a way. You're like, well, I'm just the way I am, but you never really question why are you the way you are and really get to understand it. So so it's funny because I really didn't get to know myself till my 30s. And then when I started going to therapy and really kind of like, oh, I am the way I am because of this, this instant that happened in childhood. Everything goes back to childhood. And some of them is traditional, something that is generational trauma, where it's passed from generation to generation. It's not that your parents' fault, but it's just the way, culture or whatever it is. So for example, I'm going to give you a quick example, is that, Asian parents are always just a tiger mom syndrome. It's like, like for me, I worked so hard for a 90 on test. I'm like, Mom, I got a 90 on this test. I worked so hard. She's like, why didn't you get 100? I'm like, well, it's an A, it's the same thing. She goes, no, it's not the same. It's not the same thing, So, and that's every Asian person most likely can relate to that. So like we develop a negative core belief that we're not good enough. And then that gets carried on. And because that was how we were brought up, we tend to teach our kids that and and then pass it on. And then again, that's just a very small example. But when you start checking in yourself, you're like, why do I feel the way I feel in this certain situation? Why does this situation trigger me? you realize a lot of it has to do with the childhood. And some of them you were wired wrongly. And again, it's not your parents' fault, it's not your grandparents' fault, but you were just wired, your brain's wired wrong, wrongly. It's their lies. You are good enough. You are, that kind of thing. So it's, first step is just awareness, and afterwards you just rewire your skin, rewire your brain, and know that it's okay. It's acceptable. And something with this as simple as crying. Like for me growing up, I was like, crying which shows weakness. Don't cry. That's embarrassing. But there's nothing wrong with crying. Crying is a human emotion, and sometimes it's good just to let out and cry. And even if you have no reason to cry, just sometimes if you feel like crying, go ahead. Sometimes it's really detoxing almost. So yeah.
Yeah, crying is detoxing sometimes. But no, you have a point. You have to sort of reconfigure and reprogram your brain from how you're sort of brought up or even trained to think. Yeah, I completely agree with that. And there are so many people out there who feel like because they've seen their parents act a certain way or seen and witnessed certain relationships in their life, that is how it's supposed to be. And I think it's important what you're saying is mental health and talking to someone is not a bad thing. It's just sort of opening the dialogue of letting hey, listen, I know you're programmed this way, but there's really so many other avenues you can take, and you're not confined to this one sort of path.
Absolutely. At any given moment, you always have the choice to change. And again, it's something like this. It's not something you can change overnight, but it just add up by a lot of different. Just keep practicing. And also it's just awareness. Same thing like what you talked about is that, for me, growing up, my parents I have never seen my parents fought. But they don't really talk about their feelings either. So if there is a conflict, they tend to sweep under the rug and they don't really talk about it and they move on, right? But that also builds resentment, that builds distance because you're not communicating. Where Drew's parents, which is the complete opposite, they're very passionate. They yell, they fight, and to him that he thought that was love and that was passion. And again, talking to a therapist, I think just really helped make sense of things, and like just realizing why I'm the way I am, and yeah.
Yeah, and it's not a bad thing. And I love that. I love that you're so open about that. I also want to touch on one thing. Again, for those of us who might not know, because I didn't necessarily know, and I don't want to sound like I'm ignorant, but I've heard the term so many times this past year, tiger parents or tiger mom. Can you kind of just break that down really quick? Would that just be a strict parent?
So I think the easiest way is that they like to use negative reinforcement. So nothing's ever good enough, if that makes sense. So like, for example, you're like, oh, I have this amazing podcast, I got this guest on, and they're like, that's great, but why can't you do more? Like, why don't you have this other person? Like, nothing's ever good enough. So it's because they're trying to motivate you through negative reinforcement.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's like,
that would be so hard.
That's the easiest way to explain it. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Honestly, I feel like that would make either such a strong person or such a broken person, but yeah, wow.
It's like hard love in a sense, right? And sometimes, but we as humans, we react better and we work better with positive reinforcement.
I agree. Yeah. And moving forward, obviously this was your first season along with all of your castmates, the ensemble cast of Bling Empire in front of the cameras, I believe. We know that you've had your hand in a good deal of different situations behind the camera, but this is your actual first time being in front of it, correct?
Yes, it's my first time being in front of camera. I am so used to behind the scenes, so like it was definitely a challenge, and I had to switch my brain and stay present and be vulnerable. So, I'm so glad I did it, and just I'm very grateful to have this opportunity, and it's a different revenue for me.
Did you feel like as you were filming that you sort of sometimes wanted to put on that producer cap or like that director's hat and be like, this is how it's supposed to be, but okay, fine, I get it. I'm in front of the camera now.
I had to switch that brain off so fast just because, again, it's an unscripted show. Unscripted is very different than scripted. The scripted, the beginning, the middle, and the end. Unscripted is complete, just depends on where it goes, and you have to stay present. And at the end of the day, audience are so smart. They can tell you that if you're not present or you're acting or anything like that. So I had to learn that really fast and just completely switch that part of my brain off.
All right. All right. And honestly, I think for anyone watching, it's easier said than done to put yourself in front of a camera, especially for a scripted or unscripted series. I was around a lot of filming for Bravo when I was in Los Angeles, whether it was Vanderpump Rules or Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, and just watching some of the different, I want to say characters, but cast coming forward and trying to film and put it on. And then as soon as they stopped filming, seeing how stressed they were and living in that moment, I was like, wow, it looks so easy when you watch it, but you don't realize how much it takes out of someone to really be so vulnerable and put your whole self on the table in order to get a great show to achieve that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The one thing that, however, I'm really grateful for is that our whole cast, everybody was so great and amazing, and we all been friends, for as long as over 10 years, and as short as at least over a year before the camera started rolling. So everybody was very comfortable around each other. So that's one thing that I'm really grateful for, that we have such a great cast.
All right. I like that. All right. And then I know this is kind of switching gears a little bit, and I promise you can just cut me off if I'm going in uncharted territory and you just want to, please just say the word.
No. Let's go with it.
All right. In 2013, you were appointed the first and only international ambassador for Prince Harry's charity, Well Child. Obviously, we know that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle came out with a recent interview with Oprah Winfrey, and there was a lot that was talked about. Does this hit home to you a little bit only because you were appointed an ambassador, and did you have any feelings or connections to watching that interview, or was it just kind of like, I don't know, I mean,
Yeah, you know what? It's funny. I might be the only person on the whole planet. I haven't seen it yet. I mean,
really?
I've been hearing about it, but I have been so slammed. I'm actually planning to watch it tonight, so I have not seen it yet. I've only had very, very limited interaction with him on a couple of the galas, and he was just the nicest person and so sweet. And that was so many years ago. So I know the gist of a little bit of what was talked about, just because it's buzzing, but I'm actually gonna watch it tonight.
All right. Hey, that's good. That just means you're busy. It means you're booked, you're busy, you have things going on, and that's good. That's
I'm
not
talking
necessarily.
to you, so I'm doing.
Hey, I'll take that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess just moving forward, going back to Bling Empire for just a minute, obviously you kind of talked about what it took to put yourself in front of the cameras and what that experience was like, but has the aftermath of being a part of the show and the show airing, has that affected your life at all yet? And if it has, how has your life changed from the show?
Because we're in a pandemic, it's been a little bit, it's very different than a normal launch, a normal show. Because for me, I love to interact with people. I'm a very people person. Obviously, it's been really nice. Just the overwhelmed amount of love and support the fans have given me, as well as all the other cast in the show. And then, of course, when we go out, or even with a mask on, people get really excited to come up and they want to take pictures and tell us really, really amazing things. But the show itself, for me, like if it's individually, I think it's really just, it empowered me to kind of really, be myself and confront myself and be more honest with myself, if that makes sense. And, because of the show and because of filming the show, it pushed me to do individual therapy and getting to know myself better. And now that I feel like I'm just, I feel like I'm just very comfortable with myself now. So for me, it's been very positive.
All right. All right. And then, of course, I don't want to ruin anything in case we do get a second season.
We actually got greenlit for a second season.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
That's exciting. Okay, so we are greenlit for a second season. I was Googling it and I was trying to figure out, I was honestly, right before we came on the interview and yesterday, I was looking for it and I was like, Bling Empire season 2, it has to be renewed, obviously, but I couldn't find anything on it unless maybe I'm using my own words against me and I'm the one living under a rock. But wow, I'm excited about that.
We got the good news yesterday morning. It was announced. So yeah, we're gonna have a season 2.
All right, season 2. Okay, so again, not trying to ruin anything, but if you can give us any information, has the dynamic of your friendships or the friend group, has that changed at all? Or do you feel like everyone's pretty much where they were when you filmed the first season and they still talk? There's really no rifts. It's kind of the same dynamic.
I think all of us actually got closer just because, I think with season one about how vulnerable everybody was in season one. Cause, I've known Christine and, for over 10 years. And, there was the thing about, her and Gabe's, struggle. I never knew that. So just finding out more about each other has been really great. And then, obviously season one of my favorite scenes was Shuri giving birth. I heard that she was giving birth. I knew she gave birth, but seeing it on camera and seeing it on my TV and you actually feel like you're in the delivery room, that was so powerful. So if anything, I think that it brought the cast even closer together, and we still talk all the time. We still, try to see each other as much as we can. That's obviously as COVID friendly as possible. But I hope that, in a couple months, hopefully we'll all get vaccinated and then, or maybe whatever that is, and we can all spend more time together.
All right. And again, not trying to spoil anything, you guys already have an amazing cast for Bling Empire, but would you be open to the idea of having new cast members introduced to the second season?
Yeah, I'm definitely open to it because for me, we also have, we a lot of time, again, it's such a small circle of like, affluent Asians in LA. So the ones that even I don't know them or I probably know of them or, something like that. I'm always open, for me, I think, I always want to welcome everybody with open arms.
All right. All right. And I know that we were talking a little bit about the pandemic, and obviously we're still going through that. But during the height of the pandemic, when everything really just shut down, and I was in Los Angeles at the time too, and it was an absolute ghost town. It was insane. How did you focus your attention? Were you just kind of putting it all into working from the side, or did you pick up a new hobby? I mean, how did that play out for you?
That was such a weird time. I mean,
Yeah.
especially at the beginning, because nobody knows what was going on, and we didn't know what this thing was. I was watching the news every morning, and that was such a bad idea because I started freaking myself out. I really, I think a couple of things is that one of the things that I really enjoy time with myself. If that makes sense. So I really started liking spending time with myself, which was great. And also before the pandemic, Drew and I separated our living situation on the show. And so that was like, I haven't been living by myself for a while. So just, spending time with myself and also doing a lot of reading. I used to love to read. I just haven't had any time when, running businesses, you're getting pulled so many different directions. And then also be a little bit more efficient with my time. Like Zoom is so great now. Like, before I had to drive from, how traffic is in LA. You got to drive from one area to another area to another area for meetings. And now I'm like, yep, let's just do Zoom. And I definitely was a lot more focused and a lot more efficient with work. But yeah, just kind of self-discovery, self-love, spending time with myself and reading, listening to podcasts. It was funny. And even like something as YouTube, right? YouTube has been around for a long time. But again, I just never had the time to actually watch a lot of YouTube. And there's just so much knowledge out there. So for me, during this time was just learning,
Yeah, no, and I think that was a major part, or that played a major role into all of our lives, especially during the pandemic, because it did open our, I mean, I didn't even start YouTube until the pandemic. So yeah, like you said,
wow. Okay.
yeah, no, I was working with Bravo and E Entertainment and doing these other things off to the side. But then when the pandemic hit, like you said, it's like, for example, in your case, Zoom, I'll work from home, I'll do Zoom. For me, I was like, okay, well, I'll do the same work. I'll just do it from YouTube. So yeah, it really kind of opened our eyes to so many different avenues that are, first of all, so much easier to navigate. And also, yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. It's just they're easier avenues to navigate.
That's amazing. So congratulations on your YouTube channel. That's amazing.
Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
And I did want to ask you too, because I know that your time is precious, and I want to say thank you again so much for joining me. I have 2 questions left for you, Kelly, if I can.
Go ahead.
The first one would be, of course, you are an entrepreneur and you've been an early investor in major tech startups, Change.org, MeUndies, NatureBox. You've done it, right? So if there are people out there who are watching this who think like, listen, I have the next big idea. I have the next, whether it's I don't know what it is, just the next $1 billion idea, and I want to pitch it to Kelly Mealy. How would they go about getting in touch with someone who would be an investor or, someone like you?
I think, just put it out there. That's the first thing, is that if you never ask, it's always a no. So, and also another thing is that make sure when you pitch these people, because again, well, you have a chance, the one chance, like, okay, cool, let's hear your idea. Make sure you have everything covered. So like have a business plan, think about everything, because for a business to make sense and be successful, it's not just that one part. It's that the whole machine has to run smoothly. So you have to think about, cool, the idea is the first step, but how do I execute it? My operation team, how do I market it? How do I make sure that if it's a product, the manufacturing, the fulfillment. So everything, you just have to think about it. Again, don't think about only one portion. I think that's the biggest thing I have people say, oh my God, I have this great idea, or I have this one resource, but what about all the other piece of the pie, right? So, being a successful business, just think about the whole picture and the whole machine.
Okay. All right. I like that. All right. And then, of course, just to end us off on a positive note, I always like to keep everything positive. It's just me, especially after 2020 and the insane year that we had. What are you looking forward to most in the future, whether it's the second season of Bling Empire, your businesses, your mental health, and rediscovering certain parts about yourself? I mean, I don't want to give you the answer, but I'm just curious.
Travel. I'm dying. I want to travel.
Travel?
Yeah, I love to travel. I love being on the road. I love to go to different countries and, talking to locals and knowing their culture, food. So it's such a big part of my life, for a very, very long time. I was in Asia once a month for a very long time, and I was in Europe once a month. So it was just, I love to travel. So I'm like dying to travel. And so it's been so long since I've been on a plane.
You're like, you're like, I have mental health down. Okay. I've been focusing on that all year. Travel.
But also the thing, back then, traveling also, I thought I liked flying. I either like under 8 hours or no, actually under like 5 hours, or under a 5-hour flight, or over 10 hours. Because also another time, it's really time to unplug. That's the only place that, well, now there's Wi-Fi on the plane, but I try not to. That's the only time I can unplug and really just like, read. And it's a time I think very clearly on planes. So yeah. So that's my way of unplugging for my mental health on planes back then.
No, that's a great way to unplug. Next time I take a trip from Miami back to Los Angeles, I will try to take your advice and not log into the Wi-Fi and just dive into a book.
Yeah, you will like it.
All right, Kelly. Well, again, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for joining me. This has been absolutely fantastic, and it exceeded my expectations of having a conversation with you. I've been trying to land this for a couple weeks now, and I know that you've been so busy, and I'm sure you're inundated with requests all across the board. So the fact that you even gave us your time, I can't express how thankful we are. So just,
My absolute pleasure. You're such a pleasure, Adam. And hopefully we'll get to do this again soon.
Of course. Yeah. When Bling Empire Season 2 comes out, we have to do this again. You said it, not me.
Well, hey, you said it. Next time, your YouTube channel might be way out the roof, and you're like, oh, I don't know if I want her anymore. So it can
no way. No way. I will have you back anytime. I think that not only are you fascinating, you're amazing, your personality is infectious. This has just been an absolute pleasure. So
thank you so much. Enjoy the nice weather in Miami.
I will. And also I'm praying that soon that you guys can open up in California and at least have some sort of normalcy soon, or a sense of it.
I know, I'm dying.
And you get to travel.
Yes. Fingers crossed. So, thank you so much.
Of course. Have a great day, Kelly. Thank you. All right, guys. So that was Kelly Mealy, and how amazing is she? Wow. What a fascinating individual, someone who has come so far in her life. I mean, honestly, if you didn't take anything away from that, where were you in that interview? Not only is she an advocate for mental health, she's also giving back. She's giving back to important organizations that focus on racism against the Asian community. She's a businesswoman who's spread all across the board, and she took the time to share with us, while also being a part of an amazing reality TV show and sharing that it just got greenlit for its second season. I can go to sleep tonight a happy man. Guys, if you haven't already, go ahead, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss anything we have coming up. And if you haven't already, go follow Kelly Me Lee because she's rising. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Thanks for watching Up and Adam.